Hello friends, I am Dr. Simranjeet Kaur Baga, Assistant Professor in Management, Education and Research Institute. Welcome to this e-learning module on Chapter 1, Introduction to HR Analytics. Before we dwell further, let us look at this advert. We will delve into the learning objectives so that the participant or student in this course will be able to gain knowledge in the following areas. First, to understand the fundamentals of HR analytics. Second, to understand the key comments of HR analytics, including data collection and visualization and its role in transforming HR from a traditional function to a data-driven strategic partner. Third, to understand the application of basic statistical methods such as regression analysis, correlation, predictive modeling, and other machine learning language to analyze HR data, to predict turnover, and to assess the effectiveness of HR initiative. Fourth, to analyze the real-world application and case studies in this scenario. Now, let's focus on the concept and meaning of human resource analytics. So, fasten your seat belts as we embark on this insightful journey. Now, do we always make the right decision? The answer is no. So, let's take one case-based survey. A few years ago, a BBC Radio 5 Live conducted an experiment in which they sent out their identical CVs with their name change. These names were categorized into three categories: white sounding name, Muslim sounding names, and the last that we have the black African sounding names. So, what do you think happens at that time? Any guesses? Now, I will tell you the answer. They just sent those resumes to different companies and they were counting exactly what is the percentage of people that get an invite back in their CVs. So, the CVs were sent to various companies and the response rates were very troubling. 21% of the white sounding name receive callbacks, 14% of the black African sounding names get back, and only 8% of the Muslim sounding names get an invite back. So, let's understand in simple terms, the likelihood of being invited for an interview was nearly 3 times higher for white sounding names than for Muslim sounding ones. Now, in this due to malice on the part of recruiter? Likely not. So, what is the answer for that? But what is happening is that in the 5 to 10 seconds that the recruiter is scanning a CV, subconsciously, the recruiter sees a name and determines is that someone in my group or this is from some different group. But the answer is likely here. And just that subconscious realization occur and someone in my group increases the chances of being higher. But so that we can further way around, most of the recruiters are now subconsciously dismissing the candidate based on their names. However, during the brief moment they spend scanning resume, they may subconsciously dismiss, categorize candidate based on their names, leading to bias that affects decision making. Further, recognizing this issue, companies are now working to correct such biasness by implementing diversity policies. However, recent research shows that the minorities often arrange in CV whitening, but this practice of adjusting their resumes conform to a Western or white norms in order to implement the chances of being hired. Interestingly, when someone in companies promote themselves as diverse employer, minorities are less likely to alter that CVs. Yet, the process of whitening resume actually increases hiring chances. So, the 1% get the chance of hire their resume. In contrast, when organizations emphasize diversity, minority top whitening their resumes, which can ironically decrease their chances of being selected, as recruiters still often rely on traditional norms when evaluating candidates. Thus, how a company communicates its diversity policy can unintentionally impact the likelihood of being minorities being hired. So, what is the process? So, communicating very clearly that you are a diverse employer and that you are looking for a diverse workforce might decrease the chances of being minority being selected in your company. Now, because of how you communicate that you are open and people are less adaptive to the norm, and the norm is still what a lot of recruiter hires on. This is the answer of the question that I have raised at the starting. Do we always make right choices? This is the ill will at the terms of example of how human often make flawed choices. But let's take the example related to the selection and L&T, which is based on the real case study from the Dutch police. Like many police forces, the Dutch police has several helicopters and they faced a recurring issue where many helicopter pilots left after a few years. The force invested heavily in training civilian aviation pilot to become helicopter pilot, but after a few years, these trained pilot would leave for other jobs. Now, no other option left, but this was the problematic situation because training in someone in aviation is very, very costly, and the police were losing a lot of money, which also upset their taxpayers. So, what did the police do to address this issue? Can anyone suggest? So, I will give you the answer. They compared two groups. Those who stayed in the role for many years like 7, 9, 11 and those who left only for a few years. The better option is to decide. By analyzing these two groups, they identified a key factor that determine whether someone stayed longer term. How we will decide? We will decide by saying only the terms, or the police had to do some recruitment channels. One for the civilian aviation pilot and who were trained to become a helicopter pilot, which was the cheaper option. And another for police officers looking for a new career step who were sent to aviation school to become helicopter pilot. Now, the answer, it turned out that only one of these channels was truly effective. What is the solution now? The civilian aviation pilots joined for the excitement of flying a police helicopter, but after a few years, they returned to civilian aviation because the experience gained as the police helicopter pilot made them pilot highly attractive to aviation companies. Next, we can suggest in contrast, police officer who transitioned to aviation school often stayed for decades. The key difference was the police officers. Being a cop was more just than a job. It was a calling job. They were less likely to leave, even for higher paying opportunity in civilian aviation, because their identity as a police officer was deeply rooted. The police learned from this case that the selection at the current police officers and training them in aviation provide a better return on investment of hiring than civilian aviation pilot and retaining them to become the police officer. So, what is the insight that reshape how the police has approached the recruitment and the allocation of their learning and development resources? It is now be examples that all show that we humans make bad choices. The answer of the question that we have raised earlier, do we make right choices? It is this by using data. It is by looking at past. We have made some bad choices in the past, but now the things come in the future. We have to make the better choices in the future. And this is also essential talks about human resource analytics. That is the magic agenda of this topic. By using HR analytics, they were able to make informed decisions and not only money saved on recruitment but also ensured better retention and succession planning in the second case from the real Dutch police. Though we have considered the two situations that currently exist, so we are currently living in what can be described as the era of analytic. What is analytic? Analytic is basically defined as the interpretation of data patterns that aid decision making and performance improvement. So, what basically analytic contributed in aligning business processes with strategic goal to gain a competitive edge. Moreover, the globalization of business has increased employee movement within the generation organization, fostering cultural integration both socially and corporatively. Famous quote by one of the author, Carly Fiorina, politician and former CEO of HP, correctly said, the goal is to turn data into information and information into insight, is basically analytic, is termed as analytic. As a result, there has been a shift in competition for talent, with HR playing a crucial role in human capital analytics to support informed business decision. So, now we have to consider this shift is driving changes in recruitment practices worldwide, aim at attracting newer talent, enhancing decision-making capabilities through workforce analytics. Let's further look in an era where data and algorithms are increasing pivotal. HR analytics has emerged as a key driver, taking center stage in addressing workforce complexities and empowering HR leaders to tackle emerging challenges. So, let us explore a realm where numbers and trends reveal some compelling stories and insight that transform your HR department into a whole story of employees' career journeys. Basic solution is human resource analytics. It is basically known as by different terms: people analytics, workforce analytics, work science analytics, talent analytics, people research science, human capital analytics, talent decision science, talent architecture, human architecture, but these terms are used differently interchangeably. They all have the almost same meaning. HR analytics involves the collection, analysis and reporting of HR data to enhance business outcomes. It allows organizations to gain deeper insight into their workforce, make data-driven decisions, and the assess impact of various HR metrics, ultimately contributing to improved overall business performance. Now, further, HR analytics, people analytics, workforce analytics are frequently used interchangeably terms, but they are suitable distinguish between these terms. Understanding these basic differences is very important for determining which data is most relevant for each specific function. Now, we have the term HR analytic. Basically, commonly used, there is an increasing trend of referring to people analytic as well, although the two terms often used interchangeably. There is a slightly distinction between them. Now, we will discuss further how they are both different slightly. HR analytic focused on data sourced from human resource to HR function, but in contrast, people analytic extends beyond HR to include that data from various other departments like HR department, marketing department, finance department, or other customer data, which is addressed a broader range of business operation, business challenges. Now, further, workforce analytics is also another term that focus specifically on the metrics related to the HR function, such as time to hire, training cost per employee, and the time to promotion, etc. These metrics are managed exclusively by HR for the purpose of optimizing HR processes, is called as human resource analytic. Now, the people analytic, while often used interchangeably with HR analytic, but has a broader meaning applying to people in general. It can include any group of individuals, even those outside the organization. For example, people analytic may refer to analyzing data about a company's customer, not just its employees. So, further, workforce analytic is also another umbrella term that specifically refers to the employees within an organization. This includes on-site employees, remote employees, gig worker, whatever the freelancer, consultant and other in various roles. While there is an overlap between the workforce analytic and HR analytic, particularly in terms of metric, the two terms are often used interchangeably. Now, further, we both aim to achieve similar goals, such as improving retention rate, enhancing the employee experience by analyzing the data on employee productivity and performance. So, the basic motto of this figure illustrates the distribution of HR analytic related themes through a keyword map tree that is known as tree map. This basic visualization highlights the most relevant keyword based on the inclusion criteria applied to the databases. The term HR analytic, people analytic, workforce analytic and human resource analytic account for 19%, 12%, 6% and 3% of the total occurrences respectively. You can look out the other figure or model representing the conceptual structure that is analyzed through a co-occurrence network using the Loven cluster algorithm. This analysis basically identifies a various range of themes that are linked to the central node of HR, analytic and people analytic. Now, what is human resource analytic is a broader term. It is a comprehensive process that involves the collection, analysis and interpretation of data related to an organization workforce. Basically, the primary objective of HR analytic is to leverage data-driven insights to guide and support informed decision making in the organization and in the management and optimization of the workforce. So, look at the scientific definition of HR analytic is the systematic identification and quantification of the people drivers of business outcome given by Hull and Bondrock in year 2016. In other words, it is basically data-driven approach towards human resource management. There is a number of elements in this. It is the systematic quantification and the drivers of business people outcome performance. So, what is next? It is the statistic subject. It tells about the statistic. If you want to systematically identify and quantify drivers, means you are engaging in statistics. You are doing correlation study. You are doing regression study. You are doing different machine learning studies. But those are the techniques that are applied in human resource analytics. We have different methods, but all the main meaning is to analyze the data. So, people driver of business performance. We analyze what are people doing, how engaged are people, how are they absent, how competent are people and how does that influence our business outcome. The basic motto is to increase our profit. Now, if we quantify that, if we know that people are doing, how that impacts, how they are performing, that means we are doing human resource analytics. The basic motto of our today's session. HR analytic is the process of addressing a strategic HR issue by utilizing HR data and when necessary business and external data. It involves several key components. First, identifying the HR issue, design the research, managing and analyzing the data, interpreting and communicating the results, developing an action plan for implementation and evaluation. The further basic definition we can look here is the business case. That is the third business case. Why HR analytic or people analytic is required in present scenario, or from where the term HR analytic begin and how Google is using HR analytic to reinvent their human resource. Now we will discuss this case study. The case study is about the Google, renowned as one of the most innovative companies globally. Now experience rapid and exponential growth following its founding. Now within just 10 years, the company expanded its 20,000 employees, more than doubling its workforce each year. In 2007, the hiring rate peaked at 200 new employees every week, creating significant pressure on the recruitment and selection. But to manage this human resource department, and every new applicant was interviewed not only by the hiring manager but also by their potential colleagues. In some cases, managers dedicated up half of their time to interview the candidates. But note, this is not the solution. We have to look at the immense time and resources invested in these interviews. Now, the Google has to decide what effectiveness we will take. A team of data scientists was tasked with analyzing the accuracy of interviewers' prediction regarding a candidate's future performance. The team compared these predictions with the actual performance of the new hires, aiming to determine how well interviewers could assess future success. The result of this analysis were unexpected. You cannot expect the reason behind on this finding. Google could improve its hiring process by implementing the data-driven insight into their recruitment practices, such as human resource analytics or people analytics. As the example illustrates how the Google believed that its managers were hiring top performers, but this was an assumption they had never actually tested. This was somewhat contrary to Google's usual approach. Rather than relying on intuition, the head of human resource HR decided to analyze the data to evaluate the true effectiveness of this program, of this interview process, and identify the potential areas for the improvement. When HR analytic involves examining data to gain insight rather than on intuition, it empowers organizations to make decisions based on data rather than on relying assess its hiring process. This approach enables more informed decision making by using Google, by using factual data, by using metrics. Now, people analytics is fundamentally a data-driven method for managing the workforce or even incremental improvement in their interview process could become a significant impact given the considerable amount of time. Focusing on employees dedicated to interview new candidates. These improvements are a key aspect of people analytics. Now, by adopting a data-driven approach, organizations can validate their assumption on the most effective ways to manage talent. Combining human resource management with the data analytics, with the finance to enhance the decision-making process. Now, we can further look at the basic case that above highlights that the term people analytic originated at Google. or the HR analytic, which is used to describe their data-driven approach to human resource management. Further, we can consider the Google's success has helped popularize this concept as a best practice in HRM, as it is now employed by leading global companies to enhance their competitive advantage. This is why Google's Project Oxygen, which has been a tremendous success since 2010, is often cited as a prime example of effectively integrating data analytics into every decision-making process. Basically, we will further take this initiative has provided valuable insights into people operation, making HR analytics highly popular. So, further, we can look at the case study. Now, the another figure illustrating the people analytic, representing the combination of human resource management, data analytic, and the finance. With this, the people analytic focus on analyzing the workforce challenges within the organization. Human resource professionals have too long collected valuable HR data, yet despite its potential, this data has gone often underutilized. When organizations being leveraging this data to assess their workforce challenge and align people policies with business outcomes, they truly begin engaging in the people analytic. Further, as people analytic involves collecting and analyzing data, it requires a skill set that extends beyond traditional HR expertise. It is an intersection of human resource management and the data analytic and the finance department. It is the intersection of all these departments. Now, the people management decisions at Google's are guided by the powerful people analytic team. We can further quote from the time, highlight their specific reason or their goals. All team, people, decision at Google are based on the data and analytics. Second, we can say that the goal is to bring the same level of rigor to people decision that we do to engineering decision. Further, we can look at the base Google is now replacing the 20th century subjective decision-making techniques in HR. Although it calls its approach as people analytic, or it can be alternatively be called as HR resource analytic or database decision-making, algorithm-based decision-make, fact-based, evidence-based decision-making process, or this HR analytic term. Further, the process involves how we can look at the other concept as how to optimize HR analytic and unlock the full potential of people data. We have another figure or the model that illustrates how an analysis can convert data into insight and action. HR analytic, known as sometimes people analytic or workforce analytic, involve using people data to analyze and address business challenges. It is becoming a vital capability for HR leaders to thrive in the coming years. For future HR leaders to succeed, they must clearly what to do with the data, when to rely on the data, when to preserve the human touch and the distinction between the operational data, reporting dashboards, and strategic action-driven HR analytics. Further, we can look many organizations are making significant investment in analytic technology, yet not all are fully harnessing their potential of people data analytics, because through HR analytic platform, often overlooked is the fact that HR business leader expertise in their data analytic is just as important as having the data right analytic tool. We must have to use the right analytic tool. Now further, we can unlock the potential of people data. It is essential to identify your critical data assets. Understand the value people data can provide when combined with other internal and the external data. determine how the organization plan to use this data. We further look at the another model that illustrates journey from data to insight and action in the HR context, highlighting the key factor necessary to maximize the value of HR analytics solution. Now, further we can analyze the process how we can transform data into actionable insight that involves several key stages, and the first stage is data. The first step is to ensure the data is accessible and well organized. Storing data across numerous Excel sheets is ineffective for decision making. The fundamental requirement is to have data stored within your HR talent system, a data warehouse, data lake, or some other system where the data can be stored. Now next step we have to perform the analysis. Analysis stage is utilizing the appropriate tools to visualize and apply predictive modeling, machine learning, and optimize the data at your disposal. Now, third step is the insight. This phase basically requires the right expertise and tools to interpret past events and predict future outcomes, and determines what ideal course of action, all presented in simple, comprehensible, visible format. Now, we have the fourth step, that is the action. Now, the organizational intelligence is crucial to transform these insights into actionable business decisions related to people, operation, processes, or strategic planning. To fully unlock the potential of HR analytics, four essential success factors must align. These factors is related to high quality data from reliable sources. This encompasses internal people data, enterprise-wide data, and valuable external research data. Second, we have the powerful HR analytic platform, a platform capable of handling large data set, big data, while offering the ability to visualize and effectively communicate the data story. Next is the skilled data engineers and analysts and data scientists, whatever professionals who understand both the technology and the business needs and are efficient or proficient in integrating and modeling data to extract meaningful insights. Next, we have the data-driven HR leaders, are those who leverage data to inform their decision-making process. They possess a clear understanding of how to utilize data effectively and know when to rely on data versus their intuition. We have to basically trajectory of future so that the HR profession remains uncertain, and it is impossible to predict precisely how HR practices will evolve. However, contemplating the future allows us to make better prepare for it, often leading to the higher path, innovative insight, reflecting on what lies ahead can inspire analytic positive changes in the current HR practices. Further, we can change most of the change we are witnessing today, even more so in the future, will be driven by advancement in HR technology process. Growing availability of human resource data given by the Hewell and Bondrock in the year 2016. Now, we can explore the another concept, that is how the business analytics is used for analytics, HR analytics, and basically what is business analytics. Business analytics is defined as the technological processes for collecting, managing, and analyzing the organized data to yield insights from the business strategy and operation. Over the past 2 decades, BI and analytics have become increasingly essential in business communities worldwide. According to the report from prominent sources such as Bloomsbury, and third, we have the IBM Tech Trends report, the majority of the companies have adopted some form of business intelligence, which has been recognized as one of the major components of the HR analytic trending technologies during this period, given by the author Chen et al. In year 2018. Further, within the organization, business intelligence applications are considered a critical component of human resource analytics, owing to their ability to integrate diverse data sources and provide valuable business insights. Though advanced technical supporting systems are already available to tailor HR data, now we can look to the other representing figure, global market size of business intelligence and the software application techniques. We have the software application analytics. Now, according to the data presented above in the model, the global market size for the business intelligence and the analytics software is projected to grow from $15 billion in 2020 to $18 billion by 2025. These businesses intelligence software now solution enables us to provide a more effective achievement their corporate objectives. Whether we are considering here or where we are considering. Now, according to the marker and module in year 2017, human resource analytics as a subset of business analytics and business intelligence can be defined as a practice within human resources that leverages the defined information technology, visual statistical, regression, correlation, descriptive data analysis related to organizational performance, human capital, external and economic benchmarks, and HR processes to support effective communication in their decision-making process. Further, we can look out the conclusion of this. HR, most of the change that we are witnessing today or we are witnessing in the future, we will be driven by the HR analytic. That is the advancement in the technology and the growing availability of the HR data. Thank you everyone. Happy learning.